Welcome to our second session of the day. So, you noticed, we're switching to English for this one. And we'll speak about artificial intelligence. You know, AI is the buzzword of the year. Everyone speaks about AI, and I think everyone is using AI, especially here. Just a quick poll. Who here in this room is using AI tools them to code, to write documentation, to run some tests with Copilot, Cursor, Claude, GPT? Be honest. So, almost everyone. And that's a good news, because we are very honored to welcome in Kate Smith, who come to us from Austin, Texas, and work at the famous Stack Overflow. And be nice, because it's her first time in France.
Very true.
And she wants to tell us that AI is our friend and will allow us to express our creativity, not to steal our work. So the first, please make some noise for Kate Smith.
Bonjour, Nantes. I'm so grateful to be here today. Again, thank you so much to Cedric and to the audio and visual team. The tech makes this all happen, and to our organizers for pulling this together. Let's give them a round of applause. Really grateful. I'm Kate Smith Richardson. I am a product creator and a developer at heart. Just to get started, a little bit about me is I lived in Florence, in Firenze, for a number of years as an opera singer. So my background is all in music. I love the arts, and I started to sing, and then at the end of my nights, after performing on a stage, doing Bohème, Meyerbeer, Puccini, Verdi, I would go back to my flat, and I didn't want to do it forever, I found out. I wanted to do something else, and I learned how to code in my evenings. I would get into developer community forums and ask my questions and use code labs to learn how to code. After that period of time, I moved back to the States and started to look for work, first as an assistant to chief executive officers of all different types, until I found my way into tech, where I wanted to be, supporting CTOs, technical officers, and became a cloud architect for Google, where I stayed with a Google partner for a number of years before I went to Google. I just left Google in April. I got the extraordinary experience of working with the Maps platform, so APIs and SDKs for all geospatial materials from Google. And during my time there, my job was to do product change and developer relations as we launched new products to market or had information back from our products. What could we be doing better to help developers? And the biggest thing that started to come across with AI was it started to give these immediate answers, and we noticed that developers stopped talking to each other. And while AI is very exciting, and we do expect in time for it to think almost for itself, God forbid, we were finding at that initial moment that the conversations that developers had previously had online were no longer taking place, and knowledge repositories for AI tools were becoming less and less. My job was to go and help developers rekindle, come together, have fun, and talk about different possibilities, different tools, different technologies that they are using and coming together. And at that time, I left Google in April and went to Stack Overflow for this key reason. It has been a core place for the last 17 years for developers to come, ask their questions, get their answers, and work together. As we've entered this age of AI, we do have an opportunity to see ourselves using AI heavily. And I think that there is a bit of a fear. I don't know if we have any students in the audience. I know that France has a lot of students. I just was a part of the team that launches the Stack Overflow Developer Survey every year. The largest demographic, actually, of students come from France for Stack Overflow, who submitted that form and told us about their experience with AI. And it's a bit of a scary change going from what you previously knew and what was the structure of a software engineer into what it is becoming. So we're going to talk about that change, what I like to say is a renaissance, a rebirth of the developer. Before I start, though, I just want to have a little bit of a disclaimer that everything that I share is my own. It does not reflect Google, Stack Overflow, or any of my previous or current employers, and that these are my opinions because some of them are going to be a little political and maybe a little bit more diverse than the average. But as we hop in, we're going to talk about the parallelism between Renaissance of the Italian, French 14th to 16th century, and right now what we are experiencing in this modern day of AI. We're going to talk about patrons and the tooling, what it means to be becoming a polymath, or in our term, kind of a Renaissance person, the blending of the artisan with the architect, which I think is pivotal at this point, and then also just some of the new arenas that we get to play with, the new mediums that we have to create these developer tools and products for our future. Also to what is going to leave you with your mark as you develop further into the future. Starting with a little bit of a snapshot of the Renaissance, I think this is my favorite. A lot of these are painting-oriented, but there are some architectural and also a level of sculpture in here. So to give like a little bit of an understanding of the Renaissance, we are in that 14 to 16th century period. Early on, even Aristotle would talk about the concepts that would come during this period of including humanism and science, along with art. We see that, generally speaking, the influence came from the values of ancient Greece and Rome. Our Roman experience in the empire spanned practically most of the world, feels like. And at this time, we have an opportunity to go from almost a flat, dimensional understanding of the world and our perspective on it to something that was more holistic and more rounded. At this time, we'll talk about it in a slide to come, but linear perspective came into being around 1415. That's the 1419 number with Brunelleschi's the Florence dome, an ability to take something from a two-point linear perspective and start to actually bring a 3D image into it. Your architecture, can I take a second here? France, I'm from Texas and it's just hot and we shoot rockets and we have cowboys. But here, I don't know, I'm a little bit in love. The architecture, the food, your butter. Our butter is I learned my first bad word. Shh, we're going to say it really, merde? Yeah, okay, everybody's laughing, so I guess that's okay. So yes, American butter is merde, and French butter is, God, it's so good. But all of this influence that ranged here in Europe created more dimension to the offerings, we also see that parallelism now happening during our time. This is a very condensed look at the last, well, 60, 70 years of AI development. There was a movie a number of years ago called The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch, or whatever his name is, Sherlock Holmes, which is funny to me because The Imitation Game didn't come around until 1950, yet that whole movie is based on solving decoding problems during World War II, which was previous. But pretty much during the Turing testing, we are starting to look at the mathematical behaviors of understanding what computers can do for us beyond just simply us having to engage and supply code and our own knowledge. How can a computer start to think? As we start to jump ahead in the future, we do have our first case of the word artificial intelligence coming up in the Dartmouth workshop. It was John McCarthy who first used the term artificial intelligence. It seems like here in the late 60s, we have a bit of a ramp up, but really as the 70s and 80s went, there was a decent amount of, there's only so far we can go with the computers that we have right now. There was not enough data and enough storage and enough to actually make artificial intelligence happen. So we were much more in a, let's create computers that can go faster, hold more, than creating an artificial intelligence. I think the next big point that I didn't really put on this slide was in 1997. Does anybody remember Blue Deep? No? Blue Deep, IBM. It was the first time that Blue Deep played chess with a grand world master and won. And it was the first time that we started to see, like, maybe a computer can start to use complex data sets to start to almost think past what the human intelligence can go past. And really, from that point, after Deep Blue, we see this merging and things moving faster. We have AlphaGo. We have transformers creating LLMs. Probably my favorite is BERT here in 2018. That's when the bidirectional encoder representations for transformers came into being. It's also because it's Google, and I came from Google, and I'm a Google girly. So a little bit of speeding up with that process. It definitely got popularized, and architecture started to move faster. And then 2020. I don't know how COVID was here in France, but it was not fun in the States. Lots of lockdown, obviously, but then we all of a sudden see this grand tool open on the market in certain beta practices, but available to public use. ChatGPT came onto the market much sooner, and then the last couple of years, we've just seen things drive forward. It's during this time that I think it's important to reflect back on what those tools are, but also who is owning them. So as we talk about tools and patrons, I kind of wanted this idea of reflecting back, obviously. Thank you so much for supplying the word RenAIssance, which is this rebirth, this merging of what I'm going to call the old, the classic, something that really stands a beautiful standard of time, and merging it with new, and going not only just new, but far beyond what we'd conceptualized. I think a big part for me was this point too. The printing press, Gutenberg's printing press, really changed the game. Like for us, ChatGPT went on the market and forced all of these other big companies to drop their public AI tools, Gen AI tools, as quickly as possible to stay in the game. Like the printing press, once knowledge is given into the hands of ordinary people, the world changes. We are seeing this change. We then see from all this list, we have corrective lenses and glasses, which I have to wear, different ideas of perspective, telescope, microscopes, compass, clocks that actually kept time. And I feel like we're kind of there, like we've been here in this space of what I like to call the coder rising. The last 50, 60 years, we've had compilers and different language models, and we're learning how to do these things, these developer-y things, but now we're going to take and bring a whole new element into it. We've opened a world of knowledge that has come with GenAI. So how are we going to start to bridge the two? A great thought about this is to think that we're moving from a place of memory and copy-paste, which is one of my favorite functions, of the developer journey, to what am I prompting and refining? What am I thinking about in the future? Developers are so much more required now to think so much farther out than you've ever been asked before. Everything has been more of code this, build this, because we've seen you do it before. And now we're expecting y'all to be COOs, operating officers and strategists and business planners and your own CEO of a product or a company, thinking so far ahead because y'all have the power and the knowledge to use AI tools to offer this possibility of growth. A little bit of an issue that we start to see, though, is especially for students in this audience or just the newer generation, the things that are being taught in school are very much programmatic of these are the steps, these are the things that you must know. But I think we've all experienced having education versus getting into the real world feels like two very different things. Who's really still using the same principles that they learned years ago? Yes, some of it is foundational. That never goes away. But so many of the different processes and tools that we use have changed to give us the same result. It would be foolish to not use the tools that are given us to continue to prompt and move forward. So as we think of change and what we are becoming, we're definitely becoming more visionaries, more artists than just architect. Something I want to point out is at the time of the Renaissance, a huge family, the Medici family, supplied most of the money for a lot of, churches, politics. They made sure that people, their family, got into all the right places. We have popes, we have queens, we have kings, all that started from within the Medici line, which at the time was really kind of a humble banking family that really grew in notoriety. Our patrons now look maybe a little different. We have Microsoft now funding OpenAI. We have Google now funding or a part of DeepMind, and then we have venture capitals, which is a lot of private investors thinking, the Elon Musks and the Zuckerbergs of this world, creating things like Anthropic and what have you. I think that it's important that as we continue to use these tools, to understand who's really on the back end of them and what is their motives for them being available to us. It seems that as we are moving quickly, there has been a cry of we need to be more careful in the way that we regulate and how we create an ethical AI experience for all. But it doesn't seem to be stopping a lot of the movement between these big owners. As I sat with some colleagues of mine kind of talking about this, we really found at the head of it like 5 main people who have their finger on the button of what comes next with AI. Just I won't get too far into where my thoughts are with this, but thinking about what is their play? What is the next thing? Are they doing this just because of the good of humanity? Maybe, or maybe they just want to make a buck. Who knows? But some things to maybe think about as you decide what tools you want to use and who's at the back end of this AI initiative. So I think as we see that initiative grow, it's giving, though, the developer an opportunity to grow in themselves. We're starting to see a little bit more of the polymath, or as this great definition has, it's having learned much. This is a picture of Leonardo da Vinci, somebody that was varied in very many different avenues, skill sets: painter, architect, engineer, strategist, militaristic views. The list goes on, you know. And this is where we get that word of Renaissance man or woman, somebody that's outstandingly versatile. And as I start to see what's happening amongst our communities, I'm seeing the call of developers having to be more multifaceted and having a lot more skill sets and diversity being called on more than ever. People that can think broadly and can stretch themselves while using the tools that are supplied them. We have this opportunity to grow alongside AI, but past it with its great knowledge that it supplies. As we blend the two, we start to see a little bit of the artist meeting the architect. Pre-AI developer was a little bit more of manually writing code. Thank heavens, because that's how I first got a job. And focusing on the details of building the things that we couldn't previously do. Copying patterns, that's my favorite, the CV function on my computer. Endless bug duty. And coding, you know, it just took a long time to do many things. But as we're starting to see the evolution of the architect coming through along with this artist, we're seeing faster deadlines coming, because I don't know how many of you have a boss that thinks just because Gen AI is on the table, it means that we can move faster. In one of our recent researches at Stack Overflow, it said 67% of developers still have to go back and fix code that Gen AI has already produced, because it won't fit for your needs, which is expected, but also I find it a little bit more of a nuisance sometimes than just writing my own, when I feel like I have slightly a bit more control over what is being written. There's more complexity coming into this later category with an architect, artisan, fusion. There's a shift between technical debt and systematic complexity, now organizing things with MCP servers and agentic AI where we can put it in so it can speed up something. But all of this takes time, and it takes a bit more practice. There's a little bit more of a review and shift than there is the initial writing that we've seen previous. I think I'm a better writer of my thoughts than I am rereading and finding my errors. I'm pretty bad at rereading my texts. I love to say it's autocorrect that sends things terribly, but it's usually just me. It sends just a terrible text to my friends. And now we're just seeing that developers have to do more of that. And just more towards this power and velocity in the direction in which we are moving. The managing of complexity is the largest part to, I think, this challenge of a renaissance. It's a new frontier. Developers are expected, and even the research says that we can move 10 times faster than ever before, but nobody's talking about the 10 times extra of complexity is being required of the things that you are building. While AI makes, I guess, fundamental code easier to write, we have a little bit more opportunity for human developers on the other side to think of the more critical thinking pieces and making better judgments for what should be vetted and actually produced. The new expectation is that implement AI. I'm sure you've heard it. In your meetings, in your requests from your employer, whatever it might be, put in AI. If you're not, you're falling behind. I've heard it. In a recent research study by Gartner, it had mentioned that 40% of agentic AI projects will be canceled by 2027. And just FYI, all of these are from American resources, so they might be different here, but these are from places that are very much the standard in the States for research. So yes, Gartner predicts that 40% of agentic AI projects will be canceled by the end of 2027. Why? We're moving almost too fast than we are actually thinking about how things integrate and the longer stream of how things work. 31% of developers are still skeptical of integrating those tools or just using AI tools in general, so we're still doing a little bit of a conversion practice with many of our users, developer community. I think this one was interesting to me. Up to 90% decline in the knowledge repositories from AI tools. Like I mentioned, I'm now here at Stack Overflow, and we definitely are seeing that decline. Why come and ask a question to people when AI can answer it faster? I think that there's an adjustment there to, yes, it can answer faster, but can it answer correctly? Is it actually providing a source, a resource to call upon to understand where it got this answer from, let alone who can I reach back out to? I think that that's, not to throw something about my own company in there, but something that I appreciate is you can still find people that are asking and answering the questions, not a conglomerate of knowledge repositories that could have good and or bad information. Though places like Microsoft, Google, et cetera, pull the knowledge repository from these sites, they're then wrapped in with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and sometimes generative AI tools just hallucinate, provide poor answers back, or don't really provide us with what we need. The last one is from MIT, which is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is probably the holy grail of technical institutes in the US, stating that 90%, 95% of generative AI pilots at companies are already failing. The reason for this being, if you read through these articles, is really about this complexity and the velocity in which we have this buzzword, AI, use it. But is anybody thinking of the broader scope of where it goes? I think that we have an answer right here in this audience, and that is whether you celebrate it or begrudgingly hold on to it, developer roles are changing. They're evolving and breaking and twisting and becoming more of this artisan role around the architecture. I know that my support, my tech leads, are the ones guiding my company through this time. finding the ways that we'll engage together. If you don't, if your developers are not appreciated, if your developers are not taken care of, and you're especially at a tech company, let alone in industry that is not exactly aligned in tech, I think you will quickly see a failing and a regression in business growth. So, with that, we do have a multiple tools that have come onto the market here in the last, let's just say 3-4 years, which I think we've heard about, we're using. I'm sure, I don't need a raise of hands, but I'm sure that folks that are using agentic AI models to achieve those complex, predetermined goals or codes that you've previously had been using. Instead of, hey, I need step-by-step guidance, this is just that automation, which I completely agree with. I mean, there's certain things I don't want to write anymore. It's always going to be the same. Let's just plug something in there. Vibe coding is another. Primary goal is a guide for walking through natural language prompts. Instead of writing that code line by line, I pretty much just say, hey, AI, I want this to be my outcome. And voila, it generates some level of a code and helps me have something that can be integrated into my own code base. MCP servers, to me, I'm going to be honest, they seem just a touch more complex. I know that they don't have to be that way, but I've definitely seen a pickup in that. And then, obviously, gonna take a shout back out to my own roots, but knowledge solutions and repositories are incredibly important. This was not just a problem that I've encountered while I've been at Stack Overflow, but even at Google, and you will notice, if you open your eyes and look at a lot of businesses lately, there seems to be an extra push towards developer relations, improving communities, whether it be we're changing our chat format, no longer are we using this, we're creating a Discord or a discourse on our own site, trying to bring developers back to talk to one another. Reason being is you supply the knowledge. As AI is growing, we're not able to generate that fast enough for us to just come up, or AI to just come up with its own ideas. Right now, what's publicly available to us is everything that this audience talks about somewhere on the internet. And if you're not talking on the internet, if you're not connecting on the internet, we're not building an LLM past what we have. Those knowledge repositories are going down at a very quick rate, and every company is feeling it. And so there's this squirm to find, how are we going to get people back re-engaged? So a little call to action, a little bit to think about this renaissance. Keeping it very simple, Da Vinci is a pivotal person in, I think, my development as a person, coming from music and theater, and then trying to learn other languages. I'm so sorry I failed at French, sorry. But having this complexity of skills, it starts to give us more opportunities of where we're going with our developer experience. Yes, master prompting. Generative AI, write in something great, good. I guess what I meant by master prompting was more of think beyond the initial problem. Prompt where you need the future to go. Invest in yourself and the diversity that you hold. It's very important now more than ever, I think, to have your engineering and your pickleball. Is pickleball a big thing here? Anybody? No? Pickleball is it's like tennis meets something else. I don't know. I don't play pickleball, but it's a big thing in the States right now. Just sports, sports, art, etc. The things that get you interested, the complexities. It's amazing how once we have diversity, my husband, who's here with me today, he's very much into MMA and jiu-jitsu, and is also a chef. And so we have kind of this great conglomerate of different directions that we look at life, and it gets us a lot more scope and perspective of possibility. And this blending of old, which I don't mean old, I mean kind of classic. I mean the things that stand the test of time. Your architecture, Gothic architecture, ingrained with Renaissance, that will stand the test of time. It is stunning and breathtaking for somebody who comes from a country that's only a couple hundred years old, where yours is thousands. Having this ability to blend coding foundations that were there 20 years ago with this level of Gen AI is very helpful. I got to see her in real life. I'm so happy. I know probably all of y'all have gone there before, but got to go to the Louvre and see the Mona Lisa just this past week. I think what makes her an embodiment of power during this time is, number one, the new and the old that was blended in this picture. We have this sfumato, the blending of colors and tones, the dark and the light, almost like the chiaroscuro, but it was the very first play on it. We have linear perspective. She's 3D. She's not flat like most of the other paintings that came before her. And there's also something that gives her a little bit of psychological power in just her gaze and the way that she looks. There's this blending that happens when we are having to grow, when we are in a rebirth. Yes, we take the good principles that have helped us and keep us foundational, but we then bring together something new and far more extraordinary than we've ever been before. This quote is just by me. It's nobody special. I just think that the developer renaissance is not about how fast you can go. As we've seen from the data, it's not working in a way just that AI expedites everything and makes everything go faster, but there is now this new complexity that has been asked of us. It's also how clearly you can think. It's how far out you want to take what these possibilities and tools will do. I'm really grateful for my time. I'm going to wrap about like 10 minutes early here, but I'm very grateful to be here to talk about this. Like I said, I'm an artisan at heart and also just a coder trying to learn alongside the ranks of you of what is happening in this new age of AI. It can be scary. I know that when it first launched, I remember on my Slack channel, everybody was like, oh, we no longer have jobs. It's over. And here we are, a few years later, we all have jobs still. Things are just changing and evolving, and I think that instead of fearing what AI is bringing, I think that we're going to start to see this stretch into becoming more. So I listed a few things of my polymath up there. I'm grateful to be a wife and a daughter and a soon-to-be mama, and I really love being a developer and connecting with everybody here, and I hope that we can connect over the next day at the DevFest. Thank you so much, DevFest. Appreciate you.